I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. No, it's not confession on your iPhone. We'll get the real story behind the new app. Plus, Hosni Mubarak flees Egypt, but will trace another trip through that country.
Africans are united by many, many terrible things, and we forget the good things, and one of the good things is that Jesus came to Africa.
And love is in the air. Married and engaged couples gather for a special celebration in Brooklyn.
When they're standing up, I don't think they feel anything but a little embarrassment, always standing up in front of everybody. But I think when they renew their vows, they were looking into each other's eyes, and some of them were crying.
Well, good evening. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Protesters in Egypt may have had reason to celebrate after President Hosni Mubarak left office on Friday, but his departure leaves the country in a period of uncertainty. One Egyptian priest, an advisor to the Catholic Church on Muslim-Christian relations, tells Catholic news agency that Christians need to work for equal rights in Egypt. He says he was encouraged that the protests sprang from the people, but now a new round of protests has emerged. Andy Rose has more.
While thousands of tents are broken down in Cairo's Tahrir Square, Egyptians await the construction of their new government. 2 days after Hosni Mubarak stepped down, the military dissolved the nation's parliament and suspended its constitution. Demonstrators say now is the time to stop protesting and rebuild.
The most important thing now, we have to clean our square, then we have to go back to our work and to do our jobs.
A committee will propose changes to the Constitution, which will go to the voters. The military is calling the shots for the next 6 months until elections. Those in charge say their priority is maintaining stability.
Our concern now as a Council of Ministers is security.
But leading Egyptian opposition leader Mohammed El-Baradei says too many questions still exist.
I am frankly started to get worried because we thought that the army would lay out the roadmap for the transitional period. So far, they have done nothing of that. They have been talking to each other. They haven't talked to the people.
Another protest erupted in front of the nation's central bank Sunday, apparently leading to the bank chairman stepping down. Egyptian police officers also protested, saying they want several things, including better pay.
That report from CNN's Andy Rose. Well, Egypt, now famous for its historic struggle for democracy, is also famous for sheltering a famous family who traveled there for safety. We have to go way back now to the 1st century, in fact, but Egypt was once home to Joseph, Mary, and the baby Jesus. The Holy Family fled to its borders, escaping King Herod, who decreed that all infants be killed in his land. Here in Brooklyn, the Diocese Igbo African Apostolate commemorated that journey on Sunday at St. James Cathedral.
Behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Rise, take the child and his mother, flee to Egypt."
The flight to Egypt is actually referring to how the Holy Family flew to Egypt with baby Jesus. Egypt is representing Africa, and so that's the welcoming of baby Jesus to Africa.
This is our 5th celebration, and we are just so happy and so honored that we are allowed to celebrate it at St. James Cathedral this year. Jesus, when he was born, came to Africa in very difficult circumstances. And we think that is very important because we value the life of a child in Africa.
People from Africa seems to pay special attention to the flight of Jesus, probably because they relate well with the experience of running away from an oppressive government, as Joseph and Mary had to run away from Herod. They can be inspired by the example of Joseph and Mary. Number one, Joseph and Mary listen to God.
Africans are united by many, many terrible things, and we forget the good things, you know. And one of the good things is that Jesus came to Africa. And it began as an Igbo celebration, Igbo from Africa, from Nigeria. And then we decided to expand it, that it's not just for Igbos or for Nigerians, but all African.
America is really a land of the immigrants. People from different parts of the world came to America at different times. And it's just good to open our hearts and our doors and welcome people with open heart.
I mean, one would not encourage people to stay illegally in the country, but I believe the government should be able to create a way for those people to be able to regularize their stay. I believe it would not be a good idea to just envelope all illegal immigrants and just ship them out. It's good for this type of ceremony because it makes people to remember that if not for the hospitality of the Egyptians then, probably we wouldn't have been talking of Jesus Christ today.
With a lot of groups that new immigrants that are coming, we have to kind of be willing to learn and also teach and have dialogue. Moving it from a celebration of a group of people, a tribe, to a nation, and from a nation to a continent, then hopefully to the church in Brooklyn and to the Universal Church.
Great celebration there. Well, stay tuned. There's much more currents coming up. When we return, why one religious leader is telling his followers to just say no to Valentine's Day. We'll have that story and the rest of the day's headlines next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure. Coming up in just a bit, a Brooklyn parish gives couples a day to remember. But first, let's have a look at today's headlines. Legislation to ban federal funding of abortion from last year's health care reform law has cleared one hurdle. The House Energy and Commerce Committee passed the measure, sponsored by pro-life Republican Joe Pitts of Pennsylvania. The bill is one of three supported by the U.S. Bishops' Conference. It would ban taxpayer-funded abortion and protect the conscience rights of healthcare workers. Elsewhere in Washington, the pro-life movement was on the minds of conservatives at this past weekend's annual Conservative Political Action Conference. It's also known as CPAC for short. In a straw poll of those who attended, abortion came in 6th out of 16 issues considered most important to conservatives. Mississippi Governor Haley Barbour, considered a potential presidential candidate for the GOP in 2012, affirmed his pro-life views at CPAC. He had previously expressed support of a truce on abortion and other social issues, saying economy and jobs took precedence. This weekend, speaking to the website Life News, Barbour said social issues do not have to be set aside. Arizona's controversial immigration law is back in the news. Meantime, the Associated Press reporting the state has received more than 43,000 contributions, totaling more than $3.5 million to defend the policy. The law requires Arizona police to question people about their immigration status if there's reason to believe a person is in the U.S. illegally. U.S. bishops have denounced the law, calling it draconian, saying it could lead to the wrongful questioning and arrest of U.S. citizens. Well, meanwhile, a new survey says a majority of Americans, 65%, approve of prayer in public schools. The latest numbers from Rasmussen Reports show a slight increase. Last year, 61% of those surveyed favored prayer in public schools. Americans were also surveyed on the importance of religious faith in their lives. 73% saying it was at least somewhat important, while 23% saying it is either not important, not very important rather, or not important at all. Well, turning now to international news, an Iraqi archbishop says the West cannot understand the threat of a reawakening of Islam in the Middle East. Archbishop Louis Sacco described the Middle East as, quote, a scary volcano to the Italian Bishops' News Agency. Sacco says there are forces that want to turn the region into Islamic states. He said if Egypt were to become an Islamic state, it would be a problem for all and have negative aftershocks for Christian minorities. Well, from the UK now, reports say the state's equalities ministers will propose allowing same-sex couples to celebrate civil unions in churches. Such unions are currently banned from taking place in religious settings in the UK. The proposal would not mandate that churches hold the ceremonies. The Church of England has already said it would not allow the ceremonies in its churches. The Catholic Church has not commented on the proposal, but has been clear in its opposition to same-sex unions. Well, it may be Valentine's Day, but not everyone is spreading the love. A Muslim cleric in Indonesia has warned his followers against celebrating the holiday, saying it's the same as promoting other faiths. The chairman of the Indonesian Council of Clerics says Valentine's Day historically stems from Christianity. The anti-Valentine's message did not stop a group of Catholic youth workers from celebrating the day, though. The young men and women celebrated the holiday by visiting a home for children from poor families in North Jakarta. One organizer said that Valentine's Day was the perfect day to celebrate love and affection with those in need. And back in Brooklyn, an older crowd came out to share their stories of love. St. Francis College in Brooklyn Heights hosted a special reading of poetry and prose this afternoon called Love Springs Eternal.
It is my Russian soul to suffer for love. It is the heart of the artist.
Love is very inspirational because it's so, in a sense, nebulous. It's so vague.
You can be hysterically in love. There are obsessive loves. There are loves that destroy. There are all kinds of strange loves. There are people who love their country. Will do anything and sacrifice, whether it's right or wrong.
My heart trembles in the flurries of confetti, then it dances forth to meet you. Foolishly, happily, my childish heart bounds forth.
What blows me away when I come here is the level of passion and dedication that these students show, and just the exquisite poetry that they've been able to gather up.
I'm 90 years old. Unfortunately, older people may be defined by their infirmities or, in my case, the vitality.
We're still here. We still feel the same things and want the same things.
The bowl will break, but today it remains useful. The man I loved died 10 years ago. I couldn't write a thing about him for a year. And then it came to me, and I wrote these 3 love poems.
This is the richest part of my day, thinking about her.
I thought about my sister, and I just thought about the love that we shared and the different things that we did. And I was right back in our old railroad room apartment.
I figure, what's the worst that can happen to me? If they don't like it, they can throw broccoli. I like broccoli.
What goes on in that classroom on a Saturday or a Sunday when I'm teaching is just, you just want it open to the world.
I really enjoyed reading to my son in the evenings, and I find that this is the only time someone's going to read to me, and that's what I enjoy most about his class.
With Mitch's encouragement, I'm starting to write down some of these stories that I've been doing orally.
But I would say to anyone, write. Give it a try.
Just send me 1 red rose, and I'll send one to you.
Well, stay tuned. There's much more Currents coming up. Just ahead, we'll take a closer look at the iPhone confession app that has everyone talking. Welcome back. Well, have you seen the headlines for the latest iPhone application out there? Can't make it to confession? There's an app for that. Or Catholic Church approves confession by iPhone, or have to confess, kind of a favorite of mine. Bless me, iPhone, for I have sinned. Yeah, it's one of the most popular and most misunderstood iPhone apps. It's called Confession, a Roman Catholic app. It's designed to be used by Catholics before and during confession, also known as the Sacrament of Reconciliation. iTunes advertises it as the perfect aid for every penitent, and it's the first app to receive a stamp of approval by a Catholic bishop. Well, it caught the media's attention and became the butt of late-night talk show jokes as well, and what some say are misleading headlines claiming that the app is a substitute for actually going to confession in person. Now, I have to confess, I was curious about all this, all the controversy and everything else, including exactly what the app is actually supposed to do. So we contacted a man who knows a little something about the app He is Father Daniel Scheit of the Diocese of Fort Wayne, South Bend. He's one of the priests consulted during the app's development. Father Scheit, thanks so much for joining us today.
Glad to be with you.
We really appreciate it. Now, just to clear up confusion here right out of the gate, what is the app really for?
The app essentially is an electronic list that allows a person easy access to an examination of conscience in preparation for the sacrament of reconciliation. It's true, some people benefit from a further aid to help organize the thoughts in the confessional, but it's no substitute for the sacrament. It's meant to be a help, almost like an electronic cheat sheet.
There we go. And you know, why do you think there's been all this confusion out there? Do you think maybe our sort of headline-driven society, people sort of read the headlines and then move on? Do you think maybe that contributed to a short attention span? Oh, there's a confession app. I can skip out on confession now. That might have contributed a bit to all the confusion surrounding what it's actually for?
Oftentimes in the public media, there's a selective attention that some people hear what they'd like to hear. But in all of the interviews that Bishop Rhodes, myself, and the developers have given, we've always emphasized that the purpose of the app is to meet people where they are and, like any good evangelization effort, to accompany them to where they need to be. So to find, especially our young people, immersed as they are in the virtual realm, and bring them beyond that into the personal relation of the actual sacrament itself.
My next question kind of goes back to all the confusion that surrounded this. And do you think that even though there was this confusion, and even though, you know, a lot of people might have said, well, okay, I can skip out on confession now that there's this app, and you had that sort of misconception about it, even though all of that happened, the fact that it was in the press at all, you know, is any press really good press?
The reason why we gave the interviews was because we were convinced that any conversation about the sacrament of confession, especially in those areas of public life where it's often not talked about, is definitely a good thing. And anybody who has the curiosity to pursue the story to any length or depth finds quickly the truth that the app is a very limited tool, but a tool nonetheless to help people. What we didn't anticipate was that it would be helpful in all sorts of different ways. For example, in my own parish, I have some families with special needs children, one in particular who benefits from use of the iPad, and he's expressed to his mother a great interest, in fact an eagerness, to use the iPad in the confessional because he really struggles to organize his thoughts. And for him, that's a real benefit. Another unanticipated blessing of this app is that for those people who aren't Catholic and really aren't familiar with the rite of confession itself, it's an opportunity to see what confession is and what it's not. So to see the actual words of the rite and to look at a diagnostic tool like an examination of conscience, and to see that the confessional really isn't primarily a dark, foreboding place where who knows what goes on. Rather, it's an opportunity to meet the Lord and to receive a gift that the Lord wants to give. So rather than substituting for the sacrament, it really is already brought people back to the sacrament.
All right. Well, Father Daniel Scheit, our time has come and gone, but we really thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for clearing some of that up for us. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Well, stay tuned. There's much more Currents coming up. When we return, a Brooklyn parish gives couples a day to remember.
Being married in that first day, so to speak, everything is beautiful and lovely, but as time goes on, I would say you have to just be together and be kind and loving to one another, and be more unselfish, so to speak, towards each other. We all know the words, "In sickness and in health, till death do us part."
Those are the iconic phrases that have come to symbolize marriage. But just how easy is it to live out those vows every day with your husband or wife? Well, St. Saviour's Church in Park Slope celebrated the institution of marriage with a special World Marriage Day Mass on Sunday, blessing the soon-to-be married and renewing the vows of the already married.
World Marriage Day. World Marriage. You know, it's easy for me to get up here and tell some stale jokes about marriage, but it's not easy to be married. It's an opportunity to honor the sacrament of matrimony, allowing engaged couples to be recognized and blessed by their parish community, and married couples to renew their sacramental vows. It's only once a year, and we should give the sacrament of marriage the respect it deserves.
We're married for 21 years.
4 months?
4 months.
At the end of March, it'll be 60 years.
I think marriage is a difficult thing, but I think it could be great.
When you have, like, your difficult times, I think you grow closer together, because when things go so very smoothly, you take each other for granted.
Honey, let's go out tomorrow night to dinner and a movie for Valentine's Day. She says, sure. You go to dinner, I'll go to the movies. The love of husband and wife, which was, of course, it's always imperfect, but it's really the closest relationship that we have in human terms, like the two shall become one. And there's no other relationship that's as close or as intimate as marriage. So I think it, in its best form, it most resembles God. All the married couples, please stand, all of them. And we're going to have an opportunity to renew those sacred words of your wedding day. When they're standing up, I don't think they feel anything but a little embarrassment, always standing up in front of everybody. But I think when they renew their vows, now I don't know if the camera could pick this up, but you could hear a pin drop in church. And they were looking into each other's eyes, and some of them were crying. I think the renewal of the vows is a tender moment.
I love Peter very much. We have a great relationship, and I look forward to many years being married with Peter.
Being married in that first day, so to speak, everything is beautiful and lovely, but as time goes on, I would say you have to just be together and be kind and loving to one another, and be more unselfish, so to speak, towards each other.
One of the benefits of celebrating World Marriage Day the way we do at St. Saviour's is, without even saying anything about it, we are affirming big time that marriage is a union between man and woman. Just by affirming the couples who are married, male, female, to each other, I think we give a great statement about the sanctity of marriage as we know it.
World Marriage Day happens every year on the second Saturday in February. Well, that is it for this edition of Currents. Now, coming up tomorrow, the Super Bowl may be more than a week old now, but we're still thinking about football. Got it on our brains here at Currents. And tomorrow night, we'll take you to a football wedding. Yes, that and much more coming up on tomorrow's edition of the show. But until then, be sure to check us out online at currentsny.net. We're also on Facebook and on Twitter. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Matt McClure. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night and happy what's left of your Valentine's Day.